Welcome to the Hibbing Economic Development Authority regular meeting agenda. Today is Monday, August 14th, 2023, 5:10 p.m. Everybody is in attendance with the exception of member Kivala. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Additions, deletions, approval of the minutes. We need a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of the Hibbing Economic Development Authority for July 17th, 2023. Have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Mayor Hyduk,
Support.
supported by member Vice President Drainus. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. No working session in July. The consent agenda. Number 1, affirm the Economic Development Loan Fund as of July 31st, 2023 in the amount of $870,016.79. Number 2, approve the disbursements for the month of August 2023 in the amount of $2,887.50. Number 3, set the next Heda working session for Monday, September 18th, 2023 at 5 p.m. in the Hibbing City Hall Council Chamber. And number 4, set the next regular meeting of Heda for Monday, September 18th, 2023, following the working session in the Hibbing City Council Chamber. Can I get a motion for the consent agenda?
Madam President, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as read and published.
I'll second.
Motion made by member Hoffman-Sockman and seconded by Mayor Hyduk. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, presentations.
President Mike Brock, members of the EDA. I feel like I'm super loud here, so I'm going to move back a little. We have been working through kind of restructuring our agendas a little bit, and so I'm trying a little bit of a presentation and question and answer period at the beginning of the agenda, and then having items for decision a little bit later on. And we're going to talk about this a little bit in our working session after this meeting, after our closed session tonight, to talk through how we can make these agendas and meetings work a little bit better for all the members of the board, so that you feel you're getting enough time to look at things and have deliberation and discussion while also making informed decisions, and you're comfortable making them at the time. So just kind of keep this in mind as we move through the agenda tonight, that this is sort of open for, you know, working through as we're meeting through this. The items on the presentations, though, tonight have been things that have come before you at the last meeting, and so we're going to look through them at the presentation and Q&A, and then they would come up for vote a little bit later on. So there's nothing new that's coming up on here, except for the loan requests, which I will have the individuals come up and present at that time. So any questions on trying to move through this at this point tonight? Or would you just as soon I dive in? Okay, so the first item then on the presentations and Q&A is the Northland Small Business Development Center. We do have Vicki Hegberg on our Zoom link tonight. Thank you, Mr. Werkela from HPAT, for setting that up for us. She is going to run through a brief presentation, a little bit more about her budget, which is in your packet tonight, so that you can look at where her funding sources are coming from, and then give you a chance to ask her some questions if you have any at this time. So I will turn the link over, or the mic over to Ms. Hegberg.
Do you want me to read through the memo that I provided, or did you want to do that, Betsy, and just let me know if there's any specific questions or clarifications?
I think we'd like you to talk through that budget and the impact in Hibbing.
Sure, I'm happy to do that. Apologies for not being able to make it in person, and appreciate the flexibility of the HEDA board in hearing some additional information and follow up to our last meeting about Northland SBDC's impact in the community. I think I'll start there with a recap of the slide from our last meeting where we had the presentation showing the increase in capital raised in the community with the help of SBDC consultants. So as a reminder, we're only allowed to count business starts and capital raised if we receive an attribution form from the client saying that they couldn't have done it without the help of SBDC. In 2022, Northland SBDC helped raise almost $10 million in capital, which correlates to about a third of the capital raised by the organization throughout the 7 counties of northeastern Minnesota. That impact is as large as some SBDC centers do throughout their entire region. It's pretty large, to say the least. And when we look at the ratio of capital raised to the cost of services provided, we see really strong performance at last year 187 times, and in 2023 year to date looking even better at that, trending again likely to 10 million or potentially over, hopefully, if the rest of the year remains strong in hitting. This is only possible because of intensive work that we do and outreach in the community and building relationships with lenders and with other referral partners like the Chamber of Commerce. And I'll pause very briefly, Betsy, if there's any questions on the impact before I start walking through the budget memo that was that we prepared and sent over today.
Does anybody?
No, I'm good up to this point.
No, I think
Betsy,
we're
yep.
good.
Yep, go ahead.
I won't read out the memo word for word to bore you, but I'll hit the high points and take any questions, happy to. So Northland SBDC, we receive funding at the federal, state, and local level to provide our services. All of our services are provided at no cost to entrepreneurs, which is a requirement of the federal SBA program. The SBA also prevents us for collecting any commissions related to product or service commissions or referrals, and training must also be offered at no cost or at a nominal low fee. So we need to gain all of our funding through either grants that we apply to or support from local communities that support our work. About a quarter of our funding comes from that federal SBA grant. That grant has remained essentially flat in funding amount for over a decade. And, you know, the past 4 years, I'm sure that that business owners in the room can relate. We've lost about 25% of our purchasing power on that grant just due to inflation and wage pressure. And I'm sorry, I think that cut off a little bit in the memo that we sent. We also apply for and have received for the past few years a competitive state grant from DEED. And our budget for fiscal year 2024, which runs July 1st to June 30th, that represents about 10% or 11% of our budget. All of our federal and state grants have to be matched at least 1-to-1 with other non-federal or non-state funding. Some of that match funding for the federal grant comes from the state of Minnesota itself at around 5% of the budget. IRRR has also been a great partner of ours, funding about 8% of the work for the upcoming year. IRRR, though, requires that SBDC show that local communities are also contributing to the SBDC program financially to continue to provide that $100,000 in support that we have been receiving for our SBDC consulting services. The other, piece that I want to outline about our federal and state funding is that it is pretty rigid in how we can use it. It can typically only be used for direct consulting services itself. So no outreach to communities. My time today wouldn't be eligible necessarily. Staff development, preparing curriculum for training activities, those types of things, we need to access flexible funding to do that portion of our work because it's not eligible under most of the federal and state grants that we receive. even though we think it's pretty critical to doing our work and doing it well. So how do we make up the remainder of our budget? Northland SBDC does receive support and has been receiving support from several other communities throughout the region. Right now, Ely, Chisholm, Two Harbors, Duluth, and Virginia currently contribute, and we have some other asks pending as well. Again, this flexible funding is really important to providing some of those value-added pieces of our services. Itasca and Cook County Economic Development also provide a lot of in-kind support through helping to support the wages of their employees doing SBDC consulting. Northland Foundation, being respected in philanthropy, also is able to access some grant funding that an SBDC program might not be competitive at receiving on its own, and has helped with directing grant funding from multiple sources to meet the SBDC financial program needs. Natural Resources Research Institute and UMD are also supporters of the program. Lastly, we also receive some donations from regional lenders that recognize the value of the work that we do in helping their clients access financing. So the picture that I'm trying to paint for you all is that our funding is incredibly complex. We piece it together from literally dozens of sources to provide these services in northeastern Minnesota at no cost to our entrepreneurs. We are repeatedly the best performing SBDC in the state. We were just awarded a 6-state Upper Midwest Award for being the best SBDC in that region. Our outcomes are really unparalleled. We're really great at what we do, and I'm proud of my team for the strong work that they do with clients in our region. We had quite a bit of COVID-related grant funding the last couple of years. That funding had reached the end of its timeline about a year ago, and so we're moving forward and looking to keep the same level of work in our communities as we have been over the last couple of years, because the demand is certainly there, is what we're seeing. And so the ask is for, less than 1% of our budget, with Hibbing seeing about 30% of the outcomes from our organization. With that, I'll pause. I know there's a lot of information there, and see if there's any additional questions.
I have a question. Vicki, how did you come up with 7,500?
Vicki, the question from Member Heda is, how did you come up with the $7,500 ask?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Heda. So the ask is based on what other communities provide, kind of looking at their population. And so this ask is slightly more than Hibbing in Virginia, but less than Duluth's amount. Really, we want this ask to be easy for you to say yes to, is our goal. Certainly, if we were asking for Hibbing to pay for half of the cost of services provided, we'd be asking for over $25,000 a year. We want to get outside money and bring it into our region to provide these services. And we want to be able to continue to get that IRRR funding. But we do need to show a breadth of support from a variety of communities to be able to continue doing that. So there's not a magic formula, but it is comparable, a little bit more than Virginia, with the population in Hibbing being higher.
Thank you.
And she is 100% grant funded, I believe, isn't she? Is that what we discussed last time?
Mm-hmm.
The question from, goodness sakes, I'm echoing again. Sorry, Ron. The question was, is this 100% grant funding then, Vicki, or can you talk about the various kinds of funds that come? I know you pointed to the organizations, but they're not all grants.
So the SBA funding is a grant. The state competitive grant is a grant. The state match funding I guess it's something of a hybrid. We don't competitively apply to it. We are required to report all of our expenses like we would a grant, showing match and things like that. So I guess that state match funding, it depends on if you want to call it a grant or not. The other communities that I mentioned, Chisholm, Virginia, Ely, Duluth, others, they don't provide a competitive grant. They provide a contribution to the organization. We sign an agreement that funding is to be used in support of our services that we provide. And, Natural Resources Research Institute, again, same thing, which is why it's lumped together. The lenders in our region make donations to Northland Foundation to help support our work. That work we often will do, some level of annual reporting on, but is not, I guess, technically a grant. IRRR is a grant. UMD is in-kind access to research databases and facilities. Cook County and Itasca County Economic Development are in-kind contributions to their the wages and location for those satellite offices. And then Northland Foundation match is a mix of other grants that Northland Foundation is able to access, as well as some cash match for wages of Northland SBDC employees that comes from their operating budget, right, that they contribute in as well. So, there's not, I guess what I'm trying to get at is there's not an income there. We're not allowed to have an income besides grants and contributions to our program, right?
So, Vicki,
That
this is Counselor Hoffman-Sackman, member. So what I'm hearing then is that we're not looking at doing a contract for like 1 year for fee for services rendered. You're saying that you can only accept grants, which to me, this doesn't seem like a grant. I didn't know we were doing out grants, that we take in applications and do that type of a thing. I thought we paid for fee for services rendered, because we are receiving some type of service, right, for what they're doing. So could we do a contract if we decide to do that? And would it be a 1-year contract?
So Member Hoffman. Okay, so the question was, we don't give grants in the city of Hibbing. We don't really have a program for that right now. So her question was, could we give this as a contribution for the services rendered by the SBDC, entering into a 1-year agreement to provide those services?
Not a contribution. I would just say a fee for services
A
rendered.
fee for professional
rendered.
services rendered, yes.
Right, and would we enter into a contract, a 1-year contract at $7,500?
Yeah, okay.
And outline what services that we will be receiving, which are great services,
Wait.
don't get me wrong.
1 second. Okay. Can you, so you were saying we typically enter into, you were both talking at the same time and Vicky's wasn't coming out over the actual thing. It was just coming at my phone. I'm sorry. So
let's have her go ahead and speak then.
okay, are you ready?
Yes, yep.
Okay, all right. You think I captured enough of that? Okay, perfect.
Betsy, did you need additional information for me on how we typically structure this with other communities? Did you want me to speak to that?
Yes, I think that's the best way.
So the way we structure our relationships with other communities like Chisholm, Virginia, Ely, others, is we typically enter into a 1-year agreement that is a set agreed upon dollar amount. In this case, our ask is for $7,500. That varies based on the community's population typically. The agreement states that those dollars are used to help support the SBDC program overall, including providing consulting services to the community, the entrepreneurs in the community, doing outreach in the community, things that are, again, within the bounds of the SBDC program. Typically, once a year, we report back on our impacts in the community. And so that report typically looks like what I presented to you at the last meeting, where we let you know how many clients we worked with, the number of hours of services provided, the amount of capital raised, and the number of business starts. We also can report on some demographics like underserved populations, if that is of interest. And so that has been working really well, I would say, with the other communities that we work with. It keeps administrative burden low, and we are able to show in all of those communities that the work that we're doing greatly exceeds the value of the contribution being provided.
Yeah, thank you, Vicki. That helps explain that, so we could do it in that manner then. Is the IRRR grant a one-time grant, or is it something that you guys continually apply for?
Can you explain, Vicki, how many years the IRRR grant has been received by the SBDC for these services?
Sure, I will do my best. And I might be off by around a year, and Betsy, you may be able to speak to it as well with your history of the program. I believe we started receiving some level of funding from IRRR in 2018 or so, which was to help support at that time Betsy's work on the Iron Range. As we had in 2019, Northland Foundation took over the hosting of this program from University of Minnesota Duluth, and intentionally decided to put some more boots on the ground in our more rural communities throughout the region, be a little less Duluth-centric, and really make sure that we're serving the entire region effectively. And so in, I want to say about 2020, the amount of funding from IRRR was increased to $100,000 a year, contingent on us bringing a second person onto the Iron Range, and which we have done. At that point in time, when the funding level was increased, IRRR did raise that they wanted to see individual communities providing financial support to the SBDC program to show that, you know, that there is support in the communities for the work that we are doing, right? Through that time, our outcomes in the region have really gotten much, much larger in magnitude. And so we are in the process of applying for another grant again. Those grants are provided on an annual basis. And so we will be going for that grant again here shortly. And asks like this help us to be more competitive in that process, because it is a competitive grant process with the IRRR as well.
Yes, I would just comment that the grant, I think, started in early 2000s because it was secured before Jennifer Pontonen did the role, and then all the way through my tenure there for 7 years, and it's continued since.
Okay,
So,
great, thank you.
Vicki, I know I was speaking with IRRB representatives, and they direct every business that comes to them that does not have a business plan to you. I mean, that's why they support you, I'm sure, because they know how important it was. And I know at one time, we used to give to UMD $25,000 to support small business development. And that's the program, as you mentioned earlier, that you took over. You know, I think what you do is outstanding. You serve all the communities up here. You certainly have served our community quite well. So I appreciate your information.
Vicki, just so you heard that, because I know you can't, Member Hyduke said that IRRR has reported to him that they refer all small businesses to the SBDC who come to them without a business plan looking for some kind of support. And I do know that that has been reiterated to me as well. So we're doing that from my seat as well at this time.
Yes, thanks, Betsy and Mayor Hyduk. Yeah, we have a great partnership with IRRR. I think they see the value in our work as well. And the positive outcomes that have come from us putting more attention on the Iron Range and having local consultants, having more boots on the ground. And for IRRR, you know, we're helping out both small and large organizations, right? So the little guy who, you know, is looking for help with a BRRRR application or things like that, all the way up to multi-million-dollar deals that the IRRR loan programs are guaranteeing. So it's been a fruitful partnership.
And just to be clear about the whole thing, this would be a $7,500 for services rendered, as Member Hoffman-Sockman said. And that is going to be like a yearly fee, or would we be doing this again next year?
The question was that this would be an annual agreement, and the request would come before the EDA board every year with the budget, yes. So it would not be something that would be automatically renewed. We would get the information and the reporting back, and then, you know, decide again if we decide to, you know, continue the support through the budget.
Madam President? So Betsy, I'm assuming that you have, if we were to move forward, the $7,500 in this year's budget.
Yes, we do.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
And I do have a sample, it's called a support agreement for Northland SBDC. So that would be something that when you vote on this later, you can agree to sign that support agreement or to execute it through the president. And that would, for the services rendered through professional services as you've talked.
Has Andy received a copy of that yet to review?
No, so we can send it his way, but it's pretty simple.
It's
Yeah,
only
I know.
like
Yeah,
10
thank
minutes,
you.
right?
Yeah, she'd sent me a sample, so if we want to look
Okay.
at it, we could execute that. Okay,
Because I would feel most comfortable if he saw that
sure.
as well. Thank you.
Excellent. Any other? My apologies. Any other questions? Okay, so Vicki, at this time, I'm going to stop this really clunky Zoom situation going on here. And thank you very much for being willing to present to us via this fashion tonight. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate the flexibility from everyone. And I believe one of our clients is approaching Heda for funding today. I had hoped to be there in person and just couldn't make it work this week. If there's any questions that I can help clarify on that application, Betsy, feel free to just give me a call on my phone, and we'll work the same kind of thing like this if possible.
So item number 2 on the presentations and Q&A is the Hibbing Downtown Redevelopment Loan Program. That was something that I had sent out to all of you folks. There is the first item was the Development Partnership Grant application, sort of written with the narrative for the IRRR, looking forward to being able to apply for that. So those resolutions are in the decision part of the agenda. The second item in there was the program handbook with the application, so that, you know, once we approve the program and things like that, folks can apply and we can handle the decision-making process through our current finance committee here at Heda. And also, there was one item that we're going to need to make sure that when we pass this, the loan program will be handled with the exact same loan guidelines and focus that we have already passed. So this is not a program that it will follow our current Heda loan guidelines. And we will make sure that that's part of the motion when we pass it. And also that language will be in the program handbook, should we move it forward. And then item C on that number 2 is educational programming on building maintenance for owners in the historic district. This was from Member Kibla. He gave me a call and he said, you know, I'd really like to work, and this is something that I've talked about with our chamber president, Shelley Hansen, and she is going to help us plan this. He wants to give some presentations and some educational nights for downtown building owners about how to preserve and maintain their buildings when, as he puts it, you need a toothbrush versus a root canal. so that they understand what simple things they can be doing along the way with caulking windows, maintaining the brick, all of those sorts of things to keep the buildings viable and maintained so that over time, our money goes further. And so our chamber president is going to be helping with that, and that was Roger's idea, and I think it's fabulous. So I think we're going to, work on that as well as other educational programs as that comes down the pike. Any questions on that?
No, it's a great idea by Roger.
Yeah.
It is.
It is a great idea.
Awesome. Okay, so third item then was the Howard Street redevelopment project feasibility. I'm going to, there's a motion later on, a request for some technical assistance for investigation for that redevelopment block. Now, this is the Ace Hardware block, and this is going to go through city council, but I want to keep the EDA apprised at every step along the way, because we're going to have to do some things in concert in order for the EDA to facilitate the program. The EDA and the city council have to pass some of the loan resolutions and things in concert. So I want to get some technical assistance to create that program and look at the financial resources available, local, state, and federal, for the redevelopment block. So LHB Architects is the gold standard in our state for doing building assessment to declare a building either substandard or dilapidated. And in order to declare that block a potential redevelopment block, that is the gold standard of architects to use. Their assessments have held up apparently in court. So I've connected with them. I would like to use Streeter Consulting to help guide this project down a redevelopment to a potential redevelopment TIF, if that's where this project leads, simply for the fact that I haven't actually gone through this whole process myself yet. And I would like to walk through that process with somebody who has, so that next time I have a process handbook written and can do this from the city staff on my own. And then I also have Gina Fiorini in here from Kennedy and Graven. So we need an architect, we need a municipal advisor, which Sheena and I have been interviewing. We need legal bond counsel to write up all of the documents. And I have run this past Andy, and he said, thank you very much. That's outside of my area of practice. So we connected with Gina Fiorini on that. And then also, like I said, economic development professional to make sure we go through each individual step and do them in the right order. Any questions on sort of putting all of that information and technical advising together around the redevelopment block on the Ace Hardware?
So your focus right now is the Ace Hardware block?
Yes.
But this is the same process we can work throughout this city as we move forward?
Yes.
And address other blocks?
Yes. And that AEOA building assessment that we had done earlier kind of just pointed me in the areas of certain blocks where maybe some buildings of note are concentrated that could use a little bit more time and some resources invested. So then what I will do is take a look at the blocks that kind of came out in that particular assessment and go in with the architecture firm then and do the next steps. So that's how I'd like to continue approaching this as we go through the downtown program. Any
Just
other
the-
questions on that?
This
Yes.
is just for my own information.
Yes.
Where is everybody housed? Like LHB, are they out of Duluth and
Yes.
Streetcar Consulting, where are they?
Streeter Consulting?
Yeah.
He is out of, I believe he lives in Oakdale, but he grew up in Grand Rapids. Gina Fiorini, Kennedy and Graven, I believe she lives in the cities as well, but she grew up in Chisholm.
So is this firm out of the cities then? Is
Yes.
that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and this redevelopment TIF, that kind of work is pretty specialized. So there are certain people who do it really well. And I'm trying to, at least for my first go around, amass the A team and then, work my way from there.
Great, thank you.
Yes. Excellent. Item B on that redevelopment is the parking study. A little bit later on in the agenda, I have gone out for 3 RFPs on parking studies. I received 2 proposals back. one from Benchmark Engineering, which is a local firm, and one from Bolton and Menk, which is a firm from the cities. The Bolton and Menk proposal was probably 3 times the amount of Benchmark's proposal. So that's why I ran it past my chief Esty and our city engineer, Jesse Story, and they both recommended that we work with Benchmark on this project based on, what we asked for and what they would deliver for the price. And so this would just be a first step towards, what can we do with a redevelopment block? What would it look like? What would parking needs be in various scenarios, that sort of a thing. So this goes back to also the chamber survey that said that parking was an issue. Well, we're going to do some counts and things like that. Excellent. All right, so then at that time, if there's no other questions on some of those pieces of information as we go forward, I'm going to call Mr. Jacob Hansen up to the podium to present his project. What you will be looking at then in your packet is, okay, I got to get my computer back up so I can give you the right name. It is called the Hansen Elks EDA Loan Application Packet, the loan write-up. All right, and Jacob, welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Betsy. So the background, I got funding for the castle a couple months ago, so that's me. I don't know if you wanted to have me give just a background on myself for the projects or separate?
Yeah, just give a little bit about your background and why you're a good guy for this kind of business here in Hibbing. We do have, we've done a little talking about it, but go ahead and explain why you're doing this kind of work.
Yeah, sure. So I guess just backing up separate from that, I'm an engineer. I grew up in Minnesota, not in the Iron Range though. I also have an MBA, so a little bit of a business, at least education. I work for Polaris right now. I design engines. But then I started investing in real estate, and eventually that brought me up to Chisholm was actually my first Iron Range property. And I had been investing in the cities and saw this property, and it came up, and it was very cheap compared to the cities. And so went up there, liked it, bought it, and have kind of renovated, I think, 5 of 8 apartments there, and then started expanding across the Iron Range and then into Hibbing. Now I have 25 units of different use in Hibbing. And so kind of came up here kind of by chance, but now have really got to know the people. Betsy's been a big help. LBR management, these guys have been the best managers for properties I've found in the state. I have over 100 units statewide, and they're the best, so I'm kind of focusing here a little bit more, but then also kind of the combination of the supports from the city, the good setup locally, and again, the prices. Again, I'm an investor first. It's kind of brought me to the area, and so I bought these few properties, including the castle, which you guys have already approved, and I finally have started spending that on upgrades and stuff for that building, and then now moving on to these 2 other projects that I'm asking for now. So I guess questions before I move on to the two projects.
Chair, please. I assume we're talking because you own the building that the Elks want to go in.
Yes.
Okay. How long have you owned it?
I got it last fall.
Last fall you bought it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, I got a good deal on it, and it was adjacent to another building I owned. Yep. And then I've been looking for a resident or a tenant ever since. And then I think probably Vicky found the Elks Lodge, or maybe it was Betsy, I don't remember. Connected me with them, and so we've been coming up with plans for the last couple months here.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
I would just like to say thank you for taking on the Castle Apartments.
Well, it's a little bit more than I bargained for, but I'm committed to finishing it out now.
And at some point, I would recommend that you all take a tour of it to see what he's been able to do in there.
It's a unique building.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it and I fell in love with it, unfortunately. But now I'm building it up to its former glory. And yeah, Betsy saw the new apartments, the renovated ones, and she also saw the non-renovated ones. And it's, night and day. And I'm sure you guys have heard horror stories of the unrenovated apartments now, or whatever that's happened in the past there. But working on getting that to be one of the tip-top places in the city to match its exterior aesthetic.
Great.
Yes, thank you, definitely.
Thank you.
Yep. So the loan right up in front of you then tonight talks about that this is investing in HEDA's priority number 1 in the loan fund guidelines, investment in building renovations, primarily in the downtown area, energy efficiency upgrades, investment in our community by creating a new home for the Hibbing Elks Lodge, an organization with over a century of giving in the Hibbing community. While Jacob Hansen has already secured a loan in the prior 12-month period, which typically our loan fund guidelines would then preclude him from securing another loan, at this point, HEDA staff is recommending approval of this additional loan request in order to assist the Hibbing Elks Lodge with their predicament. So, you know, we do know that we have wiggle room in our EDA fund guidelines to do additional loans if there's a pressing need, and I would say that this is one.
How big is that building?
Well, it's a mix of kitchen and kind of not kitchen, but the whole building's probably about 2,800 square feet.
Oh, it is that big.
Just, yeah, it goes pretty far back there, but most of it right now is kitchen. So they're gonna take away we got the design to take away a little less than half of the kitchen to open up for the bar area. And yeah, we've been working with Ray Davidson, a local contractor, has been kind of the primary GC, coming up with the plan and the design and the bid. And he was a former bar owner downtown too, so.
And
he
I'm
has-
sorry, who was that?
Ray Davidson.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, former bar owner, so he knows a lot of the ins and outs and seems to be doing a pretty good job of keeping costs down and coming up with a pretty good balance of getting a nice bar combined with, you know, reasonable fixtures and fittings and, you know, upfits, so it's not so outrageous. And I don't think the Elks Lodge really needs outrageous or anything, and I don't think they're asking for it, so. And it's coming up pretty good so far.
Madam Chair, so what I hear you saying, Jacob, they've already started the process.
Not the building process, just
Okay.
the design and
The
stuff.
design, okay.
And
You're
quoting,
working
yep.
with Ray, he renovated originally a building completely himself, and it was a nice building. One thing I do like about the location is it would be a good business to turn that stretch of the northern part of that avenue. And the other thing you have, there's good parking by it. You have that one parking lot, which is just, you know, building away, I think, which I know that was an issue at the Android and a lot of the other areas in town. And that's a parking area, a lot of people think it's too far away from downtown, but it's not. It's one building, it's a half a block. But it would be ideal for the Elks, for
Yep.
night, because that's when they would need most of their parking.
Yep, they're very excited. I'm very excited. I think it would be a great solution. Obviously, as an investor, they have longevity. They've been here 117 years, so
Right.
hopefully I get a nice, stable investment, set them up with a really nice building, and then you both can benefit. And your other point, further north, I own the next building over too,
Okay.
and I'm working on fixing up those storefronts. I think I had a request in for a much smaller amount through the Heda group as well. But yeah, working on that whole block to your point there.
Yeah, I just think it's important. You know, I know we had raised one of the buildings, well, more than that, because we created the parking area. So it's nice to see that being revitalized.
One other note, members as well, Jacob has approached the IRRR through the AEOA for downtown building rehab and business energy retrofit grants for those as well. And did we do a demo grant for that one as well, I believe?
Yep, applied for the demo grant. I just called the AEOA today. We did not get the DBR, but we did get the BRR grant from them for that location. So working with other funding as well as best we can. I did get a secondary loan as well from a local bank that Betsy recommended, approved for additional funding if we need it.
Yes, and keep in mind, I always recommend 3 different banks out to our local, you know, from our local area.
Great.
Any other questions for Mr. Hansen on this particular project?
Thank you.
All right, excellent. Then I will
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Thanks,
Thank you.
Jacob.
And the 1916 location, I did apply for that too. Is that part of this or?
Not on this meeting.
Okay,
Yep.
gotcha. Thanks.
Excellent. Yep. And so then the next person I'd call up is Miss Stacy Tardy. She has her project in front of you tonight, and that one is labeled with her name at the top of it. Let me just bring that up on my, I just want to have it in front of me so I can read from that one as well. Okay, so the recommendation on this one is from the community development staff as well. The loan write-up is in front of you, and the eligibility for this one is that it supports a startup business to purchase new equipment, and financing is also being provided by the Northland Foundation Loan Program for this particular project. And I will let Stacy introduce herself and her project to all of you.
Hi.
Hi, Stacy.
Just to give you a little background, my journey started like a little over a year ago. I've worked as a dental assistant for over 25 years. I do enjoy my job and my boss is great. I wanted a change and needed a new challenge. I decided to go back to school to become a laser technician at the National Laser Institute in Chicago. When I got done with school, I tried to work with a laser business in the area, but I was just getting the runaround. This is where Shannon comes in. I have been a client of Shannon's, and I told her about going to laser school, and when I got back, what I was experiencing with the other place, and she encouraged me to venture out on my own. Once I decided this was the route I was going to take, I asked Shannon if she would be my medical director, and she said yes. Then work began to put together to start a business. As I continue this journey to open my business, I will continue to work at my current job to have continuous income and ensure my bills are paid while I build my client base. I would eventually like to cut back from my full-time job to focus on building my business once things progress. I sought out non-traditional funding due to it being a challenge to acquire bank financing for a project. This will allow me to keep loan payments significantly lower than financing directly with the equipment dealer, helping my new startup business be more successful while I build the business. I'm excited about the new adventure. So that's kind of my backstory.
In a nutshell.
Yes.
So this is the, which building is this now?
I'll be at the Reed.
The Reed Building.
Yes, so overall economic benefits then is it will provide another service in the Synergy Studio in the Reed Building in the downtown, further adding to the vitality of that building. The company is a startup, and the purchased equipment will provide the collateral. The financial projections and the borrower's global income show the ability to make those payments, and the borrower plans to continue her primary job, as she said, while starting this venture. Her resume is in the back of that EDA packet, so you can see that she has the necessary skill sets to operate the business. She has offered second position on the equipment with the primary lender, Northland Foundation's loan program, taking first. The recommendation for the loan terms then is part of that loan write-up, 3% for 10 years, interest only through December 2023. Listed as an additional insured on her business insurance policy, ACH payment required, and a personal guarantee required.
And it's just you starting out then? Do you have any?
Yes, like my medical director, she is separate, so like we both have our LLCs, like we just will partner together to solution, you know, because she has to be my medical director, so our businesses are separate entities.
And how big of a spot is that then, in the Reed Building?
It's the lower level of the Reed Building. There's, Melissa Brown has massage in the back, and then there's two offices in the front, and we're going to be sharing one together. And as the client base builds, if the space is still there, I will take the other room.
So Northland, or laser and skin, I guess, could you maybe explain that a little bit, I guess? What is it that you do?
It's actual laser treatment for your face, can take care of age spots, sunspots, vanes, I can keep adding hand pieces on as I build the client base, which will then add more services I can offer. It's the best way I can,
Interesting.
like, yeah.
I'll just ask, wrinkles?
Yes, fine lines, wrinkles, yes.
Does anybody have any questions for Stacy?
The demand, I'm just curious, I was reading here in Coleraine, you mentioned it would be competing business, but they don't market, as you mentioned in here. So what is your target area? Is what Hibbing, the Iron Range
The Iron
region?
Range, yep.
Okay, the Iron Range region.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, like I said, Rapids they have lasers there, but, my services I'm going to offer, evenings and weekends and hopefully more to come as I build.
Unique business,
Huh?
unique business.
Yes.
Does it do tattoo removal too, or?
I can add that handpiece on.
So you have a
but-
lot of things you can add.
Yes, but as you see, the equipment is very
Yeah.
expensive to purchase, so it's a matter of building first and adding on and not jumping with every piece out there, but yes.
So then,
Oh, go ahead.
no, please.
So besides adding clientele, you're looking at expanding the services you offer
Yes,
as you move forward.
yes.
And employees as well?
That'd be great, yeah, to build more of a bigger med spa. That would be the plan between Shannon and I working together.
So I believe you said you had somebody signed off as a medical director for you, right?
Yes.
Something like that. So then are you licensed through the state as well, like cosmetologists would be, or?
Nope, it's a very gray area with the state. They don't make it, you go, you learn. It's more on the job training.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay.
Madam,
Yep.
I just have a question. Stacy, in your application, at least the recommendation from the community development was to have a second on your equipment as security. Does Northland Foundation have a security interest in the equipment as well?
Yes, they do, and they approve of us taking the second half of it, because they will be lending equal amount as we are.
So I saw two big pieces of equipment here. Am I missing that? The microneedling machine?
Yep, and then
the
there's
luminous laser?
two pieces of equipment for the laser. There's actually, the Resurfix, which is another added on piece with the M22. So there's two units and they each do two different things. So the top one, if you only bought the top one, it's more for tone, and the Resurfix is more for texture. So it's like,
So Betsy, is Northland Foundation, as far as you know, do they have a security interest in all the equipment? And then Heda's would be below that,
Subordinate to that.
subordinate to that, right? Okay.
Anybody else have questions for Stacy? So Heda's looking at what, 47,500? At 3% for 10 years. So- Yep. All right.
Okay. Thank you, Stacy.
thank you.
Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you.
And then finally, I have the Iron House here tonight, Brandon and Rena Freeman and Luke. And Luke, I do not know how to say your last name. Weesty, okay. And their loan write-up is the final one, called the Iron House. So, again, the eligibility within the framework of our loan guidelines is priority number one, investment in building renovations, primarily in the downtown area, energy-efficient upgrades, investment in our community, and a new entertainment option for the Iron Range community. So their plan is to make improvements to this building to enhance its lifespan. Heda will be financing the phase one of this building renovation. So Brandon and Rena, do you want to talk a little bit about your project?
Yeah, hello members. My name is Brandon Freeman. And I'm Rena Freeman, and we want to first start with a little bit of history about who we are, how we got to Hibbing. So my maiden name is Willette. I was born and raised in Chisholm, and then we moved to the cities and had some kids. Well, Brandon and I, not Luke. And I was like, we need to get back to the Iron Range. This is where I want to raise my family. So we moved up here, and about a little over 3 years ago, entered into a business partnership with Luke, and we started Freeman Investments, which is investing in real estate in Hibbing in the Iron Range community. So we have long-term rentals, we have short-term rentals in our own portfolio. And then recently, within the last year, we started LBR management, which Jake Hansen kind of alluded to. So we take on other property owners' portfolios and manage them for them, with our ultimate goal providing great real estate for tenants in Hibbing, also for bringing tourists in our short-term rental community. And one of the questions we always get from our tenants and guests from all over the world are, well, what is there to do? And so, of course, we are all very avid outdoorsmen, and we saw the need for more indoor opportunities for entertainment, which is where the Iron House is born. And so we purchased 112 Howard Street in April 2023 of this year, but our planning for that had been for about a year. We are going to, well, we have 4 phases to this whole project. Phase 1 was acquire the building that we would like to put our concept into play, which is an entertainment complex. And then we bought the complex, and now we put in about $60,000 of our own investment into that building already, which is laid out for you in the documents that you have. Phase 2 is acquiring funding to roll out our axe throwing facility on the main level of the building. And so our axe throwing facility is going to have 6 axe lanes, and that will be all projection software. So it is a little bit more interactive. We will also have an open area for people to sit, to enjoy, to socialize, just a place to be. We want to be known for our entertainment services first, but we will also be offering non-alcoholic and alcoholic beverages as well. So that is what we are asking for funding for, and the breakdown is also in the documents that you have of $100,000. Phase 3, on the lower level of the building, we are going to put in an arcade. So this is not an arcade like your Dave & Buster's, kids come play here. This is more like old school 80s theme for everybody to enjoy, those old quarter slots to come and visit. We will also have a private party room for people to rent out if they need, and for corporate events as well. And the phase 4 is to get our long-term rentals and short-term rentals up and running on levels 3 and 4 of the building. I did forget, rewind. To get our axe throwing bar up and running, our first phase 2, we need to get our axe throwing bar up and running first. After we show cash flow, NBC Bank has a letter of commitment with us that once we have the cash flow, they will be funding the rest of our project to get that arcade up and running in the basement. That is kind of the overview of our project.
Wow.
This project is also, we went for a demolition grant through City Council, through the IRRR, and I haven't heard back on those yet, but I did get questions from them, and they sound promising, so fingers crossed. You have applied for a Burr grant as well?
Yep.
Did you hear anything on that one?
We have not heard
Okay.
anything yet. Luke is actually going to send an email tomorrow.
Okay, fabulous. So they're going after additional methods of funding as well.
Madam Chair, this sounds like a lot of fun. Thank you. Does your plan, you have the basement, you have the main floor, and then upstairs, will you have it handicap accessible by an elevator then for the 3 floors?
So when we initially started, we were working with an architect. The only handicap accessible area that we have is on the main level. Unfortunately, we would have to put in an elevator, and we just don't have the capital to put in an elevator.
Right.
We actually have an elevator shaft area that we
Okay.
can put one in eventually, but as of right now, it's not in our plan.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Yep.
Madam Chair? So we're talking about the Carpet Plaza building, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
That's the one you bought? And then National Bank of Commerce is who you're working with if you're going into phase 2.
Yep.
Interactive axe throwing, I guess, so it's not physically throwing, or you're competing against?
Fantastic question. So you are physically throwing an axe at a wooden board.
Yeah.
However, when you think about axe throwing, you're like thinking about throwing at a target,
Mm-hmm.
right? This has a whole bunch of different options. Like you could play cricket, the dartboard game, or you
Okay.
can play Bejeweled, the like fancy iPhone game. So there's other games that you can play that is recognized on the board. So it's through a projection software, and so you throw the axe at the board, and they have like a duck hunter game. So if you hit a duck, then you kill the duck, and like
Okay,
you
I
play
see what
against
you're
your
saying. You
friends.
still throw the axe,
Yes,
but what's projected is the different games that you choose,
absolutely.
which makes it very creative.
Yes.
Okay.
Golf? No golf game?
No golf.
The cool thing about the software we're using is they're creating new games all the time, and we just have to purchase the next game that they create. And so this year they created the cricket game that you'd see on dartboards, and so that game, we plan on buying all of them so that we have a array of options for our guests to come in and play.
They're also seasonal as well. And so one of the things is like, how are we getting people here, right? So we're not only looking at tourists, but we're looking at getting the entire iron range at our facility. So they have seasonal games that we can switch up to keep people coming to our facility. So it's not the same old games every time. So kind of switch it up so people are coming for something specific.
Like darts, do you have leagues for axe throwing?
We will have leagues, correct?
I know you're on the same block where Sammy's is expanding, correct?
Yes.
So I mean, it's a nice revitalization of that whole, and you'd probably benefit for what they're doing too. So
Absolutely.
It just draws so many people to that area.
And also, of course, want to hear about our parking study.
Yeah.
That would be a big issue, is the parking right there.
So is each lane, is every game gonna be the same on each lane, or can you pick and choose what game you wanna play?
Yep,
On
you
each
can
lane.
pick and choose right there in the lane, so in a sense, there's gonna be an iPad. You can choose what game you wanna play. You rent it by the hour, so if you have your family there, you guys can pick and choose what games you wanna play, instead of just throwing it at a bullseye.
And you'd have a professional axe coach there with you. They spend the first beginning, teaching you how to throw an axe. We're partnering with Miguel Tamburini, who is the #1 world axe throwing coach in the world. He also has a bunch of businesses. So we have a paid mentorship with him for the previous year, and we will be flying him to our facility to train in our staff and managers.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be pretty kid-friendly as well. How do you pay for it? I mean, are kids going to be able to have like a membership there, or do they pay every time they go? How does that work?
We're still working out the details at exactly what age level we want to allow to throw axes. You can throw as little as 12 years old and up, and then the pricing is per person per hour. So it's not, you don't rent out a lane, it's how many people are using the lane at it.
And you're going with retro games down below eventually in your phase 2.
Yes, so it's not like a get a ticket, buy a toy. It's just came out, get a cup of quarters and play some games.
Well, Hibbing definitely needs
Yeah.
places for our younger generation to go. That's kind of a complaint, so thank you. Thank you for investing in Hibbing,
Very unique approach.
definitely, yes. Anybody else have any other questions for them?
If everything goes well, I have one other question, Madam Chair. What's your time frame? What's your target date for opening?
As of right now, we have it as January 1st is when we want to open. The winter time is going to be the busiest part of our business, and so we're really striving to get it done by January.
Yeah, I suppose winter, people want indoor activities and.
Right.
Yep. Very good.
So, Madam Chair, I will note that we're going to have to add this item to approve these 3 separate loans after the parking study. Item G will add in this item H before we go into, before we review Sheena's numbers and then go into closed session. Okay? I realized it wasn't on the end of the
So,
agenda.
yeah, we'll put them as item H.
Yep.
Sure.
Okay.
All right, thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you very much, and good luck with it.
Thank you.
Okay, on to the board reports then.
Fabulous. So, I just want to get up in my agenda. Well, this feels out of order a little bit here. Okay, so, board reports number 1 is the request to fund the Northland Small Business Development Center work in the city of Hibbing in the amount of $7,500. In your packet, for some reason, the benchmark parking study is before this, but it's called the Letter of Understanding Northland Small Business Development Center. That is and there was an RCA that was with this that I'm not sure exactly where it is right now, but I'll just read it to you from my, my online agenda here. I sent you a quick little memo this morning saying that we were having some issues.
Yeah.
So let me read this for you. It says, this request is to fund the Northland Small Business Development Center work in the city of Hibbing. 2023 City of Hibbing Strategic Plan's core strategy is a vibrant economic hub, economic growth to draw and retain people. Hibbing has benefited from the work the Northland SBDC has done over the past years in the community for several years. In the past, the city of Hibbing was a funding partner for the SBDC when the UMD was the host. At this time, to ensure focus on the city of Hibbing's entrepreneurs, community development staff recommendation is to contribute to the SBDC organization to ensure that our entrepreneurs have access to the high level of technical assistance provided by their staff. As shown in the 2022 Hibbing report from the SBDC, the staff is contributing to significant economic growth in our community and is able to show results for their work. So community development staff recommendation is to utilize $7,500 of the funds in line item 25546 6500-492 to support the work of the SBDC.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to support approval of 7,500 for Northland Small Business Development.
Support.
Okay, we do have a motion made by Mayor Hyduk. And did I hear a support by Member Schreiberger? Okay. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Excellent. Next item is to offer Resolution 230803, designated $250,000 of the Heda fund balance for the match to the Department of Iron Range Resources and Rehabilitation Community Development Partnership Grant Funding to create the Hibbing Redevelopment Loan Program to the Hibbing Focus District. So the resolution is in front of you, and do you want me to read the whole thing, or, okay. Thank you, members. I know I read it last time, and we've sent it out, so you've had a chance to look it over.
Madam Chair? Remember, I think you had asked for, Jennifer, for just some wording changes. Are they good with what you were asking for?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Yes, we worked for an hour and a half on that,
Okay.
at least, so yes.
I know that was a concern,
Yes.
that's why.
Yep, thank you, thank you.
Okay, so do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to designate matching funds with the IRRR in moving forward with our redevelopment program for the Hibbing Focus District.
Okay, we have a motion made by Mayor Hyduk. Do we have a second?
Support.
Supported by Member Hoffman Sockman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. On to letter C.
Okay, so I'd like to offer Resolution 230804 to apply for and accept funds from the Community Development Partnership Grant Fund from the Iron Range Resources and Rehabilitation for the Hibbing Redevelopment Loan Program. That resolution is also in your packet and authorizes me to make application for the $250,000 towards this program.
Okay, do we have a motion for letter C on the offer resolution?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Member Drainus, or Vice President, excuse me, Vice President Drainus. Do we have a second?
Support.
Supported by Member Schweiberger. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Excellent. And then after that, okay, that's the work. 1 second.
So I realize that the first resolution was to designate the funds to create the program. The second resolution was to apply for the funds at the IRRR. But I didn't have a resolution in there to approve the handbook. That is also part of your packet tonight. So I do think we probably need to do that as well as a third motion, because the handbook and that program and how people will apply to it is the process now to implement it.
Okay. Do we have a motion for that?
Motion to approve.
Is it Member Schweiberger? Motion made by Member Schweiberger,
I'll support.
supported by Mayor Hyduk.
And then that's where we're going to make sure that that language is within both documents then.
Yes, that
Okay.
it will be in keeping with the Hibbing Loan Fund guidelines that were passed earlier by this board.
Which is basically taking in that it includes nonprofit organizations as well. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. So then item D is to approve up to $1,000 expenditure out of our dash 300 professional services budget to work with Gina Fiorini from Kennedy and Graven to draft the interfund loan resolution for exploration of financial tool sets for the downtown redevelopment program block. And that is the ACE hardware block. The building needs to come down, and we need to investigate how to make sure that those steps are followed in the right process so that we don't take it down too early and can utilize it for potential redevelopment.
Okay, do we have a motion for letter D, approve up to the $1,000 expenditure?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion made by Member Hoffman Sockman,
Support.
supported by Vice President Drainus. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. On to E.
Okay, and in front of you then, you will have this Hibbing Economic Development Authority resolution that says that we will work with the city to explore this TIF district financing, and that we may incur certain costs in order to do that. The city council will be creating the redevelopment fund, and so and then turn it over to the EDA. In order for the EDA to accept responsibility of that redevelopment fund, this resolution has to be passed pending city council approval.
And this is for our North Hibbing building, of course.
No, this one, okay. This one is this resolution that was right after.
Oh, okay.
And so it says authorizing internal loan for advancing of certain costs in connection with a tax increment financing district. So we're going to hire Gia Fiorini to write this IFL for the city council, and the city council and the EDAs have to dovetail in order for us to do this work together to do a redevelopment TIF. And so that's why this resolution is in your packet.
Okay, looking at the wrong.
Yeah, the next one is for the North Hibbing building. This one is still for the redevelopment block.
Okay, do we have a motion for E to approve this interfund loan resolution?
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Mayor Hyduk. Is there a second?
Support.
Supported by Member Schweiberger. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay. Now we're on to the North Hibbing building. So last month, I had you approve a resolution to go after $2.8 million of funding from the IRRR to do some much-needed repairs on that particular building. when I submitted the draft application for that particular loan, the IRRR called me and Member Hyduk and asked us to consider making some additional information pieces to them for that packet. One, they want us to consider what the long-term leases will look like for the current tenants in that building. One of our tenants' leases expire in March of 2024, so that's, 6-7 months away. And then the other one that they were talking about is that particular tenant, RMB, is looking to reduce their footprint in that building, and they want to understand what we would do with the rest of that space then. Will AMGS expand into that side of the building and utilize more of it, and therefore their lease would be amended to increased floor space and also increased costs, that sort of a thing? So while we're working on all of that information, hopefully for their October board meeting. Meanwhile, there are a couple of pieces that cannot wait. One is electrical upgrades to the building, and two is a faulty loading dock in the back. Now, the electrical upgrades to the building will require state bid or a bid package. So I need to be able to hire somebody to write a bid spec for us, and then put that out for bid, and then bring that electrical upgrade package back to this board in September to hopefully approve and move through the process to start those electrical upgrades. Right now, we're hearing from our electrical inspectors that there's the potential that some of that equipment that's needed could be 30 to 52 weeks out, which means we don't have a lot of time to waste, and we want to do this thoughtfully so that we're doing it appropriately, but also as expeditiously as possible to support the manufacturing that's currently happening in that building. So this item then is to approve an interfund loan resolution from Fund 250, which is our loan fund, to Fund 610 of $500,000 to finance necessary repairs to 1111 7th Avenue East. And Attorney Borland has written that IFL for us.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Member Schweiberger,
I'll support.
supported by Mayor Hyduk. Is there any further discussion on this?
Betsy, I know with AGM,
AMGS.
AMGS, power is a huge issue. And when the IRRR reached out, I know that's one of the things they want to make sure we've dotted the I, crossed the T, because this building is going to be quite an investment. And they want to make sure we do it right. And I mean, this is the way we have to move forward. We own the building. This funding, if it goes through with the IRRR, is going to be huge for the feasibility moving forward with this building. And we have one really good client in that building and one that's floundering. And I guess one floundering is giving the opportunity for the other one to expand at the same location. So I think it's a much needed movement and motion to move that building where we need to go into the 21st century and support the businesses that are expanding.
Right, and the way I had Andy write the resolution is that when the funds come in from the IRRR, they would allow us to pay this loan back
Right.
to the Fund 250 to continue having that funding available for the small businesses in our community, because that's what we really focus those funds on.
It's a nice situation. We move forward.
All right.
Okay, we have a motion, we have support. No other further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Excellent. So item F is to approve signature of the agreement with Bar Engineering to provide design of electrical service upgrades at the 1111 7th Avenue East building. I requested 3 different proposals, and one declined to send a proposal. One sent the proposal on to another individual who declined to present as well, and so we have Bar Engineering's quote here. We have reviewed it, and it is sound. So at this time, I'd ask for approval to move forward with that.
I'll make that.
Motion made by Vice President Drainus,
Support.
supported by Member Hoffman Sockman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay, and then the final item is to approve the parking study proposal from Benchmark Engineering and allow us to enter into that contract for professional services in the amount of $5,500. And this will give us the initial survey and review of the current parking situation, an existing parking area map, potential alternative solutions, and a memo of finding and alternatives.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve this parking study proposal from Benchmark?
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Member Schreiberger,
Support.
supported by Mayor Hyduk. Any further discussion?
Betsy will own this study when it's done,
Yes.
and we can expand on this as things change, as businesses grow or businesses get removed, we can add any
Yes.
components of this to keep our parking study updated.
Yes, Member Hyduk, as we look at the downtown, this is going to sort of give us an inventory and account and offer potential conceptual ideas. As we potentially do redevelopment on the Ace Hardware block, we can expand this study to look at potential parking just around that block for the particular uses that a potential developer may come forward with. So let's say they want to use a certain type of commercial establishment there, and they would have certain parking needs, then we could establish this, or expand the parking study to look at that particular need. At this time, because we don't necessarily have particular redevelopments going on, ancillary to what we're looking at, I would say a general parking study is in order.
Has the city or Heda ever done a parking study for this community?
Apparently, we have in the past, but they're significantly outdated, and things have changed as far as like what are access to public parking and that sort of
Okay.
thing. So at this time, city engineer has said that this is a good way to go forward.
All right.
Is our police department involved in this study in any manner?
Yes, I have coordinated with both Chief Esty and our city engineer on this, and our PBAs, or our parking blight and animal control folks, will be working with, in conjunction with us on this study to make sure that they're giving a lot of input to the research as it goes along.
Great, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. No other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
All right. And so then the next item is to take up each one of those loan questions. And the first one on the agenda was, I got to get back there. Mr. Hansen's project for the Elks at 1924th Avenue East.
So you're looking for a motion to approve the request?
Yes, I am. I don't know if I read the loan terms on that one to you all, so maybe I'll do that real quick.
Yeah, that would help, thank you.
Just a quick reminder. Okay, so the recommendation at this time is, let me get down there. 3% for 15 years, and this is based on keeping the property affordable for the Elks Club and the agreement that they've gotten so far drafted for the lease. Disbursement of loan proceeds along with appropriate invoices for renovation on the subject property provided. Closing pending signing the lease with the Elks, so that we know that this is in fact benefiting the Elks as part of the work. Listed as an additional insured on the business insurance policy, ACH payment required, which Mr. Hansen is already doing for the other, and the personal guarantee.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Member Hoffman Sockman,
Support?
supported by Mayor Pete Tyduk. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Motion carries.
Thank you for working with the Elks.
Yes,
Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
absolutely.
Yep.
Let's see. Address the 19.
The address is 1926 Fourth Avenue East? Okay,
Yeah, and
all right, I
that's-
had it written in correctly, thank you. Yep, no, we like to be correct.
Thank you.
Yes. And you called the roll on that already, yes? Okay, so second one then is Ms. Tardy's request.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Vice President Drainus,
I'll support.
supported by Member Schreiberger. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for investing in Hibbing.
And then the third loan request was for the Iron House.
I'll make a motion.
Motion made
I'll support.
Motion made by Mayor Hyduk.
I'll support it.
Supported by,
You made the motion.
Yeah, that's what you
Just say it that way. I make the motion, I support what they're asking for, that's what I meant.
okay, we have a motion made by Mayor Pete Hyduk and supported by Member Schreiberger. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you and
Thank you.
good luck. I hope everything works out for you.
Okay.
Okay, so,
And get more attachments. I said, make it work so you get more attachment. More opportunity.
yeah,
What's your target date?
Definitely before the end of the year.
Okay. Oh, good.
okay, so now we are going, are you,
I would request that Sheena moves her numbers to before so that that's part of the public meeting. And then when we close for,
Yep.
or go into closed session, we can adjourn the public meeting right after that.
Right.
So that we don't have, folks waiting around, and then we will come back for the working session.
yes.
Okay.
Sounds good, just like we did last.
Yes.
Okay, Sheena.
Madam President, members of the board, I prepared the loan schedule before you and I handed it out tonight, so if you want to refer to that. There's also some notes that are within the agenda, just based off of the last draft that was done in August that came from Cassie in my department who prepares that. So Advanced Machine Guarding Solutions, they drew the additional $62,000, so now they're up to the $250 and their interest-only payment's gone up to $625.
Gina, could you slow down just a little bit?
Yes.
I mean, I'm following along, but it's
Sorry, I
tough to
speak
follow.
fast, yes. So the 6-month interest-only payments for Eagle Eye Properties has ended, so now they're on their amortization schedule. We have Winchester LLC has started their interest-only payments. Prime Movers, their monthly draft has begun of $482.80. So Moxie was drafted as normal for both their COVID and regular loans, but we are reaching out to the bank. We did have a returned ACH payment that we do believe was theirs for August. We just have to get the detail from them because the ACH is like a total amount of the draft for all loans. So I'm clarifying that with them and they're gonna come back on the ticket tomorrow. So then I'll reach out to her and find out how we can get that caught up if that's hers. And then the following loans for Lee's have become ACH payments, effective August 1st. And then Herb Smart brought in his check, so he is now caught up in current. Following our last HEDA meeting, Jennifer, I think you had just brought up reaching out to Andy Koshak and seeing if he wanted to go ACH, so we didn't have to try to get him to come in with checks. He said he was interested, but he didn't fill out the ACH form I sent him yet, so I'll try to follow up with him again and see if he's got that form that I sent him. Demjanoviches have been making their $800 payment per the letter we sent them, so they're still current on that agreement. We did receive a couple of payments from RMB Environmental. One was July 24th and then another payment on August 7th. So a couple from them, back-to-back payments. And then the
I think that was pretty much it for my updates in red. Otherwise, everything else is pretty much current and up to date. Does anybody have any questions?
So Herb did bring in a check, so he's current.
He did, and then we did draft him again also,
Yeah.
so.
Not too bad.
No, looks good.
There's a lot of loans on this schedule, so everything is getting smaller and smaller, even though this is the biggest paper we
I know I
have.
can hardly read it.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions for Sheena on her finance report?
Sounds good.
No.
Okay, thank you, Sheena.
Yep, you're welcome.
So now I would like to have a motion, though, to go into a closed session
I'll make a motion.
pursuant to the Minnesota statutes 13D05 subdivision 3C for the purpose of the land property sale. And we do have a motion made by Mayor Hyduk,
Support.
supported by Vice President Drainus. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay.